You're listening to the TV Obsessive channel, presented by TVObscast.com.
All right. Hello, and welcome back to episode 107 of the TV Obsessive podcast. My name is Ryan Kirksey, writer and contributor for TVObsessive.com, and joined once again by Cameron Crane, the executive editor for the site. Cameron, how are you? We're approaching the end of June. We're getting very close to some highly anticipated things coming up in less than a week.
Yeah, man, it's summertime. We've got apparently there's going to be a heat dome over a lot of the
Yes.
country, and I saw someone saying it's going to be like 105 degrees in Nebraska or something, which you know, we got that going for us. Yeah, it's June 20th. Yeah, later this week or by the next time we record, the Bear season 4 is coming out, and Squid Game season 3 is coming out on the 27th.
Yes.
So they're saying right before we got on, I in particular am going to have an awful lot of television to watch here later in the week, insofar as I do want to get through the Bear. We're going to talk about that on the podcast at some point. We're still working out the details there. Ryan's going to write on the Bear, but then I signed up to write on Squid Game, so I'm going to have to watch all of that. We'll make it work. It'll
Are,
be
are,
fun.
are you are you someone who would, whether putting the writing assignment aside, or will you traditionally watch a season again before a new season comes out if it's so you're really anticipating?
It really kind of depends. In large part, I think it depends on how long it's been. When something's on that kind of yearly schedule, like the Bear, I don't feel as much as I need to. Like I remember season 3 fairly well.
Right.
I might dip back in a little bit. I sometimes I'll do things like I might just watch the season 3 finale episode, like the last episode again.
Hmm.
Sometimes I'll do things like that. Squid Game 2, season 2 was pretty recent in my mind. That was even more recent, right? That was
Yeah,
like
it's like 6 months ago.
6 months ago. So what do I need to do to refresh my memory? Maybe not a ton, but then with some of these other shows, particularly when they are on the binge model, when it's been years,
Yes,
sometimes I
yes.
feel like I don't remember what happened at all, or um, so it kind of varies a bit. What about you?
Yeah, yeah. I'm the same way. If it's been over a year, I think it's been somehow pushed out of my memory. So we need to go back and revisit it usually.
Well, it's interesting. I think I've noticed this for years now, that I don't know if this applies to everyone, but for me, it really does matter whether something is released all at once or week to week. Where if it's released all at once and I binge it, right? If
Yeah,
both of those things happen, then I'm at particular risk of like not really remembering very well.
yeah.
Um, Whereas if it is going week to week, maybe just because my mind is processing and holding on to things for a week between episodes, it gets into like a deeper section of long-term memory or something like
Yeah.
that. It's an interesting phenomenon. Because I was experiencing this week. Resident Aliens new season's out,
Yes.
and I think the second episode comes to Peacock today. We talked about this before. I believe that they're like airing it on linear cable a week before it comes to Peacock, but
Mhm.
I'm waiting for Peacock. So only one episode, and I watched it. And they do the thing at the beginning where it's like previously on, and it's just like really quick cut up. And it's like if that wasn't just kind of refreshing your memory, it wouldn't do the job. But I did okay without actually revisiting it.
Got it.
Um, Although I think I did binge that, but it was last summer that I binged the first 3 seasons.
Yeah.
So
Well, I did, as you mentioned, I am rewatching the Bears season 3 ahead of season 4 coming in less than a week. And I think in hindsight, looking back on this and rewatching it, there was a lot of, I think, criticism as this third season came out last summer because people got to the end of it and thought, well, this is clearly the first half of a sort of long season that they've decided to break up into two, and I think that that was valid. But with that knowledge, I just go back and reviewing it again. Seasons one and two had such high highs, and everyone just sort of fell in love with those, and I think that certainly is true. Season three to me is a good season without the anticipation of, oh, what's going to be the thing at the end that sort of hooks me, or that is this great ending. You sort of know what's coming. You just enjoy it for what it is. And I think I'm enjoying it this second time than sort of that sort of put me on the back heel at the end of season three. We're like, wait a minute, this is it. This is where we're stopping.
That's interesting. Yeah. I have definitely seen some criticisms of that season. I didn't really have them personally. I thought it was fine. And just with the flow of it,
Yeah.
I saw it coming that we weren't going to get real resolution, just looking at the episode count and how it was going and all of that. But I know that there are also those who have criticized season three along the lines of feeling like nothing happened
Yeah.
really. And I can see that, but I guess it's another one of those instances where I want to say the reason that I enjoy the show isn't really the plot.
Right.
It's the character stuff, and such that I think like our favorite episodes even are the ones that are just kind of focusing on one character and deepening that character, right? Like we recorded a couple of podcasts on season three on standout episodes. We could have picked any episodes, and we're like, well, let's do the two that are like character studies.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to
Yeah. There were,
season four.
there's just some commentary that, the first season was, can we make the beef work? Second season was, can we successfully launch the bear? And then sort of this, there anticipates, okay, what's the third season? And I guess the third season is, does the bear work? Does it, can it stay open? But that's sort of that line is sort of going through to season four, which I think was, I'm sure where we'll end up the this fourth season.
Yeah, and then in the background, there's also the question of Claire, and then
Yeah.
like she's not in season three really. Um, and so yeah, I mean, it definitely did have that feeling like it was kind of half a season. Same thing with Squid Game, really. I mean, it's
Mhm.
even more so with Squid Game in my mind, where it was like, well,
Yeah.
you gave me season two, part one, you know what I mean? And so season three is like season two, part two. I am looking forward to seeing how they wrap that up. Whether I'll revisit. Yeah, that's one where, yeah, okay, maybe I will rewatch the last episode of season two sometime this week before season three comes out. But
Yeah.
as I think I've said to you before, I mean, I really feel like in a meaningful way, I can't even assess season two until I've seen season three
Yeah.
in like, I don't know, philosophical or political terms. I mean, like what is the show? Because that's what it's going to be for me, right? Ultimately, I thought season one was really coherent, and I wrote a relatively long piece on it that I'm fairly proud of. You can go check out on TVObscast.com. But I thought it was clear of like what Squid Game was doing as a kind of critique of late capitalism and exploitation, all of that kind of stuff. And so with season two and three, narratively, they've made kind of clear what our friend is trying to do. What's his name? 456. Um, but how does that go in the story? To what extent does he win? If he quote unquote wins, will that feel earned? All of that kind of stuff. So I'm really kind of curious to see how they land the plane on that one. And I think we know that that's the end of Squid Game, although there have been some murmurs about possible spin-offs and stuff, which I don't particularly want.
Yeah.
Um, you and I have speculated that this will probably be the end of the bear, but there's been no official confirmation of that still that I've seen.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, it is strange to think that in a week's time we could have, we may have, these are both binge drops, so it may have been both of these, and that may be the official end. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I do wonder with the bear, like, are they not giving people early access because it's like surprise, it's over? But
Yeah.
it wouldn't really be a surprise, but um, we'll see. Definitely looking forward to that, and probably hit on it at least briefly next week, and we'll figure out when we're gonna make time to dig into it a bit more here on the pod. I mean, that's where we started with
Yeah,
this
that's right.
podcast, so we definitely need to talk about it there. Looking at the news this week, we've just got really a couple of things to talk about. Which of these do you want to start with? Mindhunter?
Yeah,
I guess I
yeah, we might
decided.
spend more time on the second item. We can start with Mindhunter. Mindhunter is a show. I think we've talked about this before. My wife introduced me to this. I fell in love with this show. I think there's been a lot of fan movement for will we get more of this? And there's been I don't even know whether to call it news or rumor or gossip that there might be more Mindhunter coming. And we'll link to a piece here that talks about these rumors, but there might be more Mindhunter coming, but it might be in the form of three 2-hour movies. Is that the gist you got from this speculation?
Yeah, I'll take it. I mean, and this is one of those, man, where I recall you talking about Mindhunter maybe last year or something. I feel
Yeah.
like it was while we were doing the podcast that you got around to checking it out. Like I watched it when it came out, and then I watched season two when it came out. You know what I mean? And it definitely feels like one of those shows that's been canceled 4 times.
Yeah.
Somehow, like, will there be more? Because the announcements were always like, maybe there will be more Mindhunter at some point, but David Fincher's real busy, and
Yeah.
then another year or two goes by, and the news report was like Fincher doesn't have time,
Yeah.
and but then I feel like last year there finally was a Netflix canceled Mindhunter. It's not happening,
Right.
So I go, okay, that that sucks because there was stuff that they were preparing kind of in the background, they're dangling threads, and it was a really good show and all of that. So I'm fairly excited about this quote unquote news. I mean, it's more of
There was a meeting that happened, basically. I don't know if this is anything official. There was a meeting that happened.
yeah, and so we're now picking up on a remark that David Fincher said in a meeting.
Right.
Maybe we could close it out by making some films. And
Yeah.
I guess people are working on scripts,
Yeah.
and then it'll be,
And he may or may not have even said this thing. This is just sort of third, fourth hand information.
yeah. So it does feel a little bit like they're toying with all of us Mindhunter fans, but maybe, I had more or less given up any hope that they were going to
Yeah.
make any more Mindhunter. So if this happens, um, that'd be great. I'll definitely watch it. And it's funny that with Mindhunter, they're going to say, well, maybe we could make 3 movies, whereas with like Stranger Things, they just call that a season.
Yeah, exactly. Three 2-hour episodes. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but anyhow, yeah, hopefully that happens. And it does seem like, I mean, I guess one sign of hope here is it does kind of feel like all of the actors involved are on board and would want to do it.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
just a matter of, I guess, mostly David Fincher, because I've got to believe that Netflix too would say, oh, yeah, for sure. We'll fund
Netflix
this.
doesn't seem to have any red lights on things. Yeah, if there's story, if the people involved are there, it certainly has the audience. It certainly will capture the screens for a weekend if they drop these. So yeah, I'm sure this would be a go if all parties can get on board.
Yeah. So we'll keep an eye out. We'll keep an ear to the ground, see if we get any more mind. It'll probably like 2 years from now, we'll be like,
Yeah.
there's a rumor that there's a script for one movie.
Right.
Um, anyhow, you want to talk about the Traitors cast? We got an announcement of the cast of the next season of the U.S. version of the Traitors, the season 4.
Right.
I guess it is in production now,
Yep.
which is that's cool. I don't know if how soon we'll get it.
Yeah.
I think the previous seasons all came out in January, so I
Yeah.
wouldn't
It's
hold
been
your breath for before
yeah,
January,
late
but
late January drop and then episode by episode after that. Yeah.
um, but yeah, what do you think about what they're doing with the cast here on this one?
Yeah, so we've talked several times about this comparison between the US traders and how they use quote unquote celebrities, more like reality stars, people that have been on Survivor, Big Brother, Love Island, Real Housewives. It is sort of reality figures to fill the cast of this show compared to the UK version, which uses more everyday people, if we can use that that term. And so it doesn't surprise me that they've done that again. I guess of the cast that they have promoted here, there's a Variety article that goes through each and every one of them that's been named to that new season. But maybe for the first time, we have some actual established actors and actresses. We have Guy Funches, we have Michael Rappaport, we have Lisa Rinna. Now, these are not obviously A-listers at this point, but there certainly are relevant actors and actresses combined with a lot of reality stars. But I think the name, we just talked about this and the season just wrapped up, was Kristen Kish is one of the contestants. So this is the now two-season new Top Chef host. She won Top Chef. She's been, in my mind, a fantastic host of that show, both in Wisconsin and the Canada seasons. Um, but part of the reason why I love her so much is she is incredibly attached to or empathetic to the characters and the contestants on that show. She is known for positively for being very emotional connection to these contestants. So again, I'm a huge fan of hers. I don't know if the Traitors is the right show for her. Like, well, they just gonna like okay, trample over her because she's an incredible empath and just someone I think is wonderful for certain circumstances. I just don't know if this is right for her.
Well, I mean, that'll be interesting. Um, I don't have the familiarity that you have. We've talked about Top Chef multiple times. One of
Yeah,
these days, maybe sometime this summer, as we're, in the lull of,
yeah,
whatever, I'll start watching some Top Chef. But it's interesting that they got you, right? Because clearly this is always the idea with how they're casting the Traitors US version, right? So well, we're going to put on people that viewers already know because they've watched Survivor or Big Brother or The Bachelor or whatever. Um, and for me, that's pretty much never been the case. I've always been
yeah.
like, like I didn't even realize that one guy in season 3 was Zac Efron's brother until they mentioned it in like the finale.
Oh, that's right. Yes, I remember. Yeah.
Had no idea who he was. Just some guy. No idea who the still guy. Like I know who Zac Efron is. But yeah, I mean, for me too, looking at this whole cast list, even if I don't have the same kind of relationship to things through Top Chef,
Mm,
um, there are some other people here who I'm more familiar with, like Michael Rappaport and so on and
right.
so forth. Um, and I think I like this. Broaden
Yeah.
it out a little bit, right? Like Donna Kelsey. I don't really care
Yeah.
about Donna Kelsey, but at least I know who she
Her 15
is.
minutes are not up, apparently.
Yeah. So um the idea of kind of expanding it out, maybe getting some athletes involved and
Yeah.
moving beyond reality TV a little bit. I think that's interesting. Even though part of me wants to say I really kind of prefer the UK version with ordinary people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've always gotten the idea of what they were doing with these reality celebrities,
Yes.
but
Yes.
I've never known who any of them were. So it always for me takes however many episodes until I've established some kind of knowledge of them
Yeah.
through the Traitors itself.
Yeah, I
So
think two thoughts. I mean, one, if I was not a fan of Traitors, which I am, again, thanks to your introducing this to me, if I was a Top Chef fan, I would watch this show. Oh, I want to see what this is like. She's clearly won Top Chef before. She's a good addition to the show. I will watch this, and then yeah, I'm also curious to sort of see this as it's expanding out beyond just reality stars. How these whether it's athletes, whether it's established actors and actresses, how they react to these reality stars, whether it's Real Housewives or whether it's competition reality like, Survivor or The Challenge or Big Brother, just how that dynamic works. Like, who are these people? And these people are serious, and that's what they do for a living. Some people may not know what they're getting into.
yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to it. And I still have my eye out on Peacock for,
Yeah.
come on. Where's season 3 of the Australian version? Where's season 2 of the New Zealand? Do these things exist? What's going on, man? I should probably actually like look and see if they even made those seasons. Like is Peacock withholding or did they just not? Did they just stop making those versions of the show? There was something a week or two ago, as far as the UK version goes, that apparently though they are now going to play with having a celebrity version in the UK. So I don't know how we feel about that, but I mean, I'll still watch it. But
Definitely.
uh, I like the ordinary folks. I still feel like the UK season 2 was maybe the best
I
of
love
the
that
seasons
season.
I've seen.
Absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so let's turn our attention to Murderbot. We're up to episode 7, called Complementary Species. I don't know how I feel about the titles of these episodes. They never really seem to matter, or like kind of make sense in a weird way. But anyhow, spoilers will be on the table for everything through episode 7. No book spoilers. We haven't read the books. We'll put in a little bit of music here and be back with you in about 10 seconds.
Okay, we're back to talk about Murderbot episode 7, Complementary Species on Apple TV Plus. This episode written by Paul Weitz and Chris Weitz and directed by Roseanne Liang. This episode starts with Guthor and reveals in a flashback that he used to be a spy for the corporate rim, and they had him heavily drugged to try to get him to acquire information from Dr. Mensa. But her attitude and optimism convinced Guthor to leave the corporate rim and come on their mission. In the present, everyone's still skeptical about Murderbot after it killed Lavivi. Guthrin and Penlee want to get rid of it. Mensa, Arata, and Rathi want to keep it around and think if it wanted them dead, they would be already. Murderbot then yells at them to take cover before one of those two-headed monster centipedes surfaces again. But apparently this monster does not want to kill them, but rather to mate with another one on the warm surface of the hopper. After all that business is over with, there is an egg sac hanging from the hopper. While the group discusses what to do with that, one of the advanced sec units shows up and attacks them without warning. Murderbot does struggle with it, but it is killed by the centipede monster after destroying some of their eggs. After the battle, Guthrin collapsed from his illness, and the crew is left to decide whether to try and get him back to the medical bay, which is still potentially covered up with the advanced sec units. Interesting things happening in this episode all around. But maybe the most interesting, at least in terms of where we've come from and where we're going. Do you think it was the flashback at the beginning where we have revealed that Guthrum was a spy working for Corporate Rim and was supposed to gather, I guess, corporate espionage intel from Dr. Mensa, but instead was persuaded by her to come on the mission with him and then switch sides, I guess, for lack of a better term?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed that scene. It
Yeah.
was I mean, it felt a little bit like with Garathan. How do we say his name? Which one of those? Um, it felt a little bit like it was telling me things we already knew,
Okay.
but I don't know if you had that feeling at all. But maybe it's not. Maybe it just fit so well, right? Because he's always felt a little bit different than the other members of the Preservation Alliance. A little bit, less crunchy granola or whatever. He's always been more suspicious of
Yeah.
Murderbot and so on. So finding out this backstory with him, um, I think it does fit. I don't know how much we needed that. And also towards the end, when he starts telling Mensa that she's being naive about this expedition,
Yeah.
it almost felt a little too on the nose. So I don't know. It sounds like I'm being very critical. I don't mean to be very critical, mildly critical with regard to like that point. But overall, I enjoyed the scene and the way it continued to characterize these people. I don't know.
I think that's what I took from it maybe most, that this was, even though only a couple of people participated in this idea of them playing what I guess they were calling the sweet bitter game. I think that's what
Yeah.
they refer to it as, is we get a little bit of nuggets of backstory and understanding history and context of some of these characters. I was with you where talking about the naivety of the mission and the Mensa and the people going on it. I still want to know, okay, why? We didn't really get anything more about what they're doing, who these other people are, but it sort of, to your point, rings a little bit hollow when you're talking about how naive you're being about the mission, what you're trying to accomplish, what you're trying to do, and we don't exactly have a lot of intel on what that is. I appreciate to know some of the history of these characters. But yeah, trying to pair it with what's happening now maybe landed a little bit flat.
Well, I don't know. I mean, one thing we did get, I think, last week, in terms of their mission, their expedition, it was pretty quick, but it was in there that they're going to a planet like this to collect minerals to then sell the minerals to support the
Yeah,
Preservation Alliance, which I think is a significant little nugget, right?
yeah,
Where Labibi was asking, kind of like, where do you get your money? How do you support yourself? And
yeah,
it turns out that this group that is trying to exist outside of the corporate rim or whatever, right, trying to exist in separation from what seems to be like an ubiquitous corporate presence in the world of the show.
yeah,
Um, they still can only support themselves by like buying minerals and selling them to the bad guys, you know.
yeah.
So they're not exactly pure or whatever, however you want to put that. So we did get that little bit, which I appreciated. And I think that was last week, and I don't know if we really talked about it on here. With the sweet bitter game, I did feel like the point was more showing us how they do this than
Mhm.
the information we're getting, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Which I don't know how it landed for you. I don't know if you checked out my article on TVObscast.com this week, my recap article. I described all of this and then I said gross. they because I mean, because at the end of each person they snap their fingers and then like, we
Yeah,
can talk
yeah,
about it.
yeah.
And it's like yeah. For me, that seems terrible already. But establishing that so that then in the present, when you've got the kind of interpersonal conflict with Murderbot in
Yeah.
the aftermath of Murderbot having exploded the Labibi's head, then you get the same kind of thing when they want to form a circle and they start saying like we can talk about it, and
Yeah.
Murderbot is then thus like um I don't know, I was gonna say my surrogate or kind of audience surrogate or something for like absolutely not, you know.
I think that was a good reason why that first scene was necessary. I mean, yeah, it gives us some backstory, but also, yeah, it shows that okay, this is how the people in this universe and this world talk through or handle some of these things or go through some of these discussions. And so when that comes up in the context of okay, well now we can try to include Murderbot into our circle. Yeah, he's just learning more and more that it wants nothing to do with the human aspects of what it means to be human in this world.
Well, especially not this. I mean, they have this whole kind of ethos of oh, we can just talk through all of our problems, and
Yeah.
why did you kill that woman who had a gun to Grathan's head? We could have talked it through, you know. Um, where there does feel to be to me a real kind of naivete, or I guess that's the right word, in
Yeah.
terms of just like operating in the world. And now they're in the situation where they're under serious threat and still kind of proceeding in that way, which is stupid, right? But also maybe, it is human for sure. But even insofar as we're talking about human beings, like, these aren't my kind of people, personally.
It almost seems like I may be just sort of going off of a personal tangent here, but it almost seems like they want to consider Murderbot as we know at the beginning they want to consider Murderbot more of I don't know if they want to consider it a human, but they want to consider it as not a slave or a servant or an indentured servitude like we've seen with so much. So they want to separate it from that. That then they've done so much of that that when Murderbot tries to do the things it's supposed to do, like warn it, advise, do this, don't go here, let me take care of this, that they are separating what they want Murderbot to be from what he's trying to do. Like they don't want to take Murderbot's advice on anything. They want to, part of the conversation. Let's, as you said, let's talk through it. Let's see what maybe we can come up with, as opposed to this unit is designed to keep us safe, but we're just going to sort of make it part of the democratic process we have here.
Right. Like on the one hand, if Murderbot just was the um program sec unit without any free will, well, the Preservation Alliance was never really on board with that. They always wanted to treat it like a person
Right.
anyway, but now they learned that this particular sec unit does have free will, so then they're going to even more treat it like a person. But then, yeah, as you say, not listen to it when it comes to why it's there. Right?
Right.
Like I don't
Exactly.
kind of going around the circle a little bit, but
Don't want to listen to why it's there. Shocked when it does its job by protecting them and eliminating Labibi. So yeah, just yeah, the dynamics of this group just continue to confound me from week to week, it seems like.
yeah, I mean, I do think that they make sense though, right? Insofar as if you take their perspective, okay, well, and then almost particularly once they've learned that Murderbot does have free will, then killing Labibi is something this person did as an act of free will,
Right, right.
where Murderbot now then has like more moral culpability than if you could say, hey, this was just a sec unit following its programming. So it's almost like they started feeling like they were friends with Seki, and then they discovered that their friend, quote unquote, is going to do a murder,
Yeah, yeah.
basically, and have no. There's an interesting moment where I forget which character says it, but um, she says something like, has he even shown any signs of regretting killing Labibi? No, of course not, because that was the right thing to do. Um, but I think it gets to how there is this level of kind of being human that we don't often think about a lot, or maybe we do, but we don't think about it a lot in terms of like academic moral philosophy, which I have some background in. Of it's one thing to kind of go through a justification of what the right thing to do is. You could ask a sort of question of like, I don't
Yeah,
know, the trolley problem, for example, people are
yeah.
well familiar with, I think, for the most part, or a lot of people are briefly, where it's like, hey, should you pull the lever to kill one person and save three people, right? And a lot of the arguments there are going to end up saying yes, right? It's like better that one person dies instead of three people, just to be real straightforward. But then there doesn't tend to be a lot of focus on the question of whether, if you do pull the lever and kill the one person, should you feel bad about that?
Yeah,
And I think that this show is playing with a weird level of a human emotion, as it were, where at some level, I think maybe we do want to say that if you're a good person, even if you did think this was the right thing to do, you should still feel bad about it.
yeah, yeah.
And that's different from, this is the right thing to do and I did the right thing, so I've got a clear conscience, right? It's a weird kind of area, because you're almost tempted to argue, if it really was the right thing to do, you shouldn't feel bad about it. But if you don't feel bad about it, what are you, like a psychopath? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that kind of space is where the show plays with a lot of.
And it doesn't give us any, I don't think the show gives us any indication that Murderbot, despite having free will or no governor module, has any sort of conscience or emotion or empathy. We don't get those things necessarily. We certainly get a lot of sarcasm in the in what he is how he is reacting to things. But I don't know. Do you think that just having free will, Murderbot also feels things or wants things or desires things, as opposed to just I do what I want, not just what you tell me to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we know is, Murderbot, it feels anxiety and the like,
Hmm.
right? We know that.
That's right.
It also has a desire to survive, right? Because there's a fear or worry that will pop up in terms of, hey, if I'm found out, then maybe I'll be melted down and all of that kind of stuff. I don't want that to happen. Should I kill everyone and hijack a spaceship? Right, going back to the beginning, even. Um, yeah, it's probably not going to work out so well. I'll probably end up getting caught and melted down. Right, that
Yeah.
recurs a bit here. You have that kind of interesting scene where Murderbot's in the woods and thinking about abandoning these annoying people, and there's a level of I don't know, like instrumental reasoning or something, where now Murderbot wants to live. What does Murderbot want to do? It would seem Murderbot just wants to watch his stories. He just wants to, I'm sorry, it just wants to watch TV, So we can take that as we will. But I do agree it's an interesting question they keep playing with in terms of to what extent does this being sort of have emotions and desires? And
Yeah.
I don't know, do you have further thoughts on that?
I mean, just that it stood out that you're right. In episode 6, we did see some of the, I think, the first strands of emotion in terms of this anxiety, panic, a little bit. Um, but yeah, in terms of desire, you're right. I mean, it's almost singularly focused now on I want to. I don't want to say live a solitary life, but I think it references episode. I wish I had more storage. I could have just downloaded more episodes and watched TV until I run out of battery. Right? It's just kind of what it wants to do, which is let me have the things that I want and leave me alone. As much as I thought I wanted free will, I don't want free will if it means being a part of this group. I want free will to just do what I want and everybody else just leave me be.
Yeah, except then it can't quite bring itself to like abandon these people,
Right,
you
right.
know. So why? Particularly now, particularly in the circumstances we're in now, because of course you understand the worry that, oh well, if it doesn't do its job as a sec unit and all of that, it can end up getting in trouble and getting melted down. But now we're in a situation where if it continues to stick with this group of human beings, it's putting its survival at severe risk here, right? Which it's going to do.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
what's going on there is definitely, I think, a big thing to think about, that kind of dynamic of kind of feeling beholden to these people and not being able to abandon them. I mean, that's also playing in something like a space of emotion or desire.
Yeah, yeah. I have found it interesting. Um, and it's yeah, we have to move away from thinking that its mission or its directive is now to protect them. It's more of a desire to stay with them and protect them. But in so doing, it's now failed twice in battle with the advanced sec unit. First, it was, I think, Dr. Mensa shows up and is able to gun it down. The second time, this monster comes back after it messes with its eggs. I wonder if we're setting up to reference a 20-year-old movie, Bane breaks Batman's back, but then he, rises up after, seeing what's going on and goes back to fight him. And okay, this is the time he triumphs, that type of thing. So yeah, when we see this sort of, I'm able to do this, it doesn't seem like I can, but it's just he's doing everything he's supposed to do and maintaining that directive of keeping them safe. He just sometimes is not able to actually do that, and he's been bailed out a couple times.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because I guess they're going to go back to the habitat to treat Garathan's wound. The way the show handled this, by the way, was a little bit, I don't know, I think it could have been maybe a little bit clearer. So I don't know if you caught this or if everyone watching did. Labibi shot Garathan in the leg
Yes.
last week, but the way that they handled it made it unclear kind of whether he had been shot in the leg. It was weirdly filmed, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Like where there was enough of ambiguity that I wasn't entirely sure if she'd actually hit him in the leg or if she'd like shot the chair right by his leg or
Mm.
something. But then this week, he's hurt. He's been shot in the leg. It was like, okay, that is what happened. So I don't know if that was just confusion on my part or if anyone else watching was confused. But what I was trying to get to is this question or dynamic. Murderbot rushes them away from the habitat because of the threat,
Yeah.
saying that they cannot wait for Garathan to get more treatment in the medical bay because they've got to get out of there.
Right.
Right. So, and they do. But now, since Garathan has fainted or whatever, and he really needs that medical bay, they're going to go back. So I think there is a certain level of something to think about, a question if you like, what have you, in terms of, well, Murderbot's assessment of things, and to what extent was that a mistake, right? Like, should Murderbot have just said, "Oh, okay, well, of course we're going to wait until Grathan gets a treatment before we leave, even though it's a risk."
Yeah.
Am I making sense there?
Yeah, I'm trying to think exactly. I'm not sure what I think the sort of intention or motivation is there. I wonder as Sec Unit deals with these threats and is able to get them out of some of them, is compromising others. Um, yeah, how it feels about the sort of ongoing. I don't know. I haven't put much thought to sort of what you're saying there. Not sure I have a fully formed thought there yet.
All right, well, I can say a little bit more, I think. So I guess what I'm suggesting is that from Murderbot's point of view, the rational thing, the right plan, is to get out of there. Bad guys
Right,
are going to
right,
show up any minute,
right.
and they're going to kill us. We just got to get out of here. Grathan's hurt. Who cares?
Yeah,
Um, Either he'll survive or he won't. But even if
yeah,
he doesn't, we got to save everyone else. We got to get out of here, right? And like that would be the kind of rationale. But if now they're going to go back because Grathan needs the med bay in the habitat, well, that's worse, I think, than having waited, right?
yeah,
So at some level, I don't know, like as a human being, you might have thought this through a little bit differently
mm,
and realized that, well, this group of people isn't just going to let one of their members die. He
yeah,
needs medical attention. If he can only get it here, we better give it to him before we leave, even if there's a risk involved in that.
yeah,
Whereas that doesn't occur to, like, it doesn't occur to Murderbot at all that there would be this possibility of them deciding to go back for the med
yeah.
bay, right?
Yeah, I think and to your point is even though it has free will, we aren't necessarily thinking of it as a human. We're thinking of it as something that should think like a human or reason like a human. It's still likely still making decisions probabilistically. I think so. And so it's weighing things differently than say we would. I just don't. I don't get the impression it's making decisions the same way that say we would if we were considering something like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
Hopefully, our conversation here has made sense for the past couple of minutes. It's just something that I got thinking about because, at a certain level, I mean, it's really stupid. At a certain level, they just left because it's so dangerous to be there. But now, because Grathan
Yeah.
collapsed, now they're going to go back to the place that they know is super dangerous, right?
Yes.
And I think it'd be easy because the show presents itself from Murderbot's perspective so much to inhabit that perspective and think, oh, well, the stupid human beings are going to go back, even though the place might be overrun by these bots they can't effectively fight or whatever, and that's stupid. But from the point of view of the Preservation Alliance, I think it does make sense. Like a member of our group is hurt. We're not going to just let him die. The only way that we can help him is to go back to that med bay.
Yeah.
We should have let him get that treatment before we left in the first place, So I don't know. It just interesting, I think, to think about. And I do presume that they'll go back, which is kind of taking the narrative in a circle, right? But
Yeah.
this is where I think it's kind of important to think through, I don't know, the background of it a bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't know
Um,
that there are advanced sec unit killer robots back at the habitat or anything.
we don't. We
We
don't.
don't know. Um,
Yeah.
we don't know who's behind them and Labibi yet
Yeah.
either.
Still don't know that. Yeah.
Hopefully we find out, a little bit more relatively soon. I am starting to get the feeling like this is end game for the season, but we'll see.
Yes.
We'll see how it goes. Um, I don't, speaking of that, I don't think that this is leading in the direction of our friends in the Preservation Alliance and Murderbot just like getting rescued by the corporation, and then hey, everything's fine and back to normal. I think it's got to be going in the direction some way of them becoming like revolutionaries. Don't you think?
I mean, I would think that yes, something along those lines, and something along the lines that yeah forces Murderbot to finally be faced with a decision that is potentially counterintuitive to what its directive is, and how it evaluates and makes that decision in order to save them, in order to save itself, in order to get what it wants, in order to, I mean, are we headed down a road where it's going to sacrifice itself? I don't know. There's sort of the trolley problem for this Murderbot. Would it still sacrifice itself for the benefit of these people, or now that I realize sort of who they are and that that's not a group I want to be around, do I save myself? I think that's a would be an interesting end game. I really think I have no idea where this is headed at this point.
Yeah, I don't think it would be that definitive though, insofar as I mean, I'm presuming they want to make multiple seasons of this show,
Yeah,
and we know that there are multiple books of source material for
right.
them to pull on. So, um, really curious to see where it's heading. Um, I guess they're going to go back to the habitat and we go from there. We keep saying every week we want more information, basically.
Yeah.
At some point, I suppose we'll get it. Do you want to say anything more about the monster? I mean, like, I guess this is where the title of the episode comes from, Complementary Species, but I
Yeah.
don't know. It doesn't seem at all like it's the main point that there is like the monster sex and stuff.
No, no, not the main point at all. I wanted to shout out I think read this review of the episode on Decider perhaps, but just talk about how there's surely some people out there that have been dying to see some, kaiju screwing, so they finally got what their wish in this episode. So there you go.
There you go. Yeah. And you get the eggs a sack, and it's good that they didn't get rid of it because that leads to the you know
Yeah.
fortuitous.
We learned this in Jurassic Park. Don't ever touch the eggs of species you don't understand. Don't ever do it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, man. Okay. And I'm just thinking back now, thinking about the monsters, as it were. Way back at the beginning, we had the attack, and then the discovery of that location where that a whole bunch of these sandworm centipedes had died, and that's gotta get folded back in at some point, I would think. Right? What's going on with those spots on the map?
Yeah, that like keep bringing them up for some reason that it can't be just this, right? That'll come up at some point in the future, I think.
Yeah, I'm kind of presuming it's the main thing. And probably we had that one little brief line, I don't know, in the series premiere or whatever about maybe it's alien technology. And so that's all I have to latch on to. So I continue to think there's some super special alien tech, and you're going to find out more about that. And that's why all of this stuff's happening, something like that. But
That's right. Yeah, I agree.
yeah, who's behind it? Why? Are they bad guys? Is everyone a bad guy? You know what I mean? Because I think it's pretty clear the corporation or the corporation rim, or is that a location, or I don't know. Anyway, I think it's pretty clear the corporation are bad guys, right? Like
They
forcing
have to be,
people into
yes.
indentured slavery, and
Drugging them
however
to get
they're
information. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
however they're making these sec units with cloned flesh, and who know why not, man. They're bad. Um, Whoever is threatening the Preservation Alliance here seems bad because they're threatening the Preservation Alliance, right? But we don't really know who they are or what their motivations are at the end of the day, you know?
Yeah,
So,
and I thought, well, okay, we're going to learn that it's the corporate rim because they have spies and they drug people to do their bidding and are trying to gather information, but we're not explicitly told that, at least yet.
yeah, and see, I'm kind of thinking more that whoever's behind these advanced tech units in Labibi is working against the corporation. And so maybe it ends up somehow going in this direction where it's not that Murderbot is finally able to defeat these advanced tech units in battle, but maybe they have some kind of, you know, some kind of conversation occurs where they actually like become allies or something like that.
Yeah. I think that's a reasonable, yeah.
So we'll see. We got a few episodes left. Definitely enjoying the series. I like the little short episodes. We still find enough to talk about with each one. Anything else you want to hit on here before we wrap
I
up?
think that was all in my notes, yeah.
All right, cool. So hopefully you enjoyed the podcast. Thanks always for listening. Please do leave a good rating, review, all that good stuff. If you're on YouTube, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We greatly appreciate it. Check out TVObscessive.com. You can find weekly recap articles of Murderbot there that I've written, as well as written work on any number of other TV shows coming down the pike here in the near future. We'll have some stuff on the new season of The Bear, and we'll have some stuff on the new season of Squid Game. We have continuing coverage of Rick and Morty going right now, but we also have, any number of articles about any number of other shows. So you book around the site, and I hope you'll do that. Follow TV Obsessive on social media. If you search for TV Obsessive, you should find us on whatever platform, basically. And we'll be back with you next week.
All right, looking forward to that, and we'll see you then.